I love chocolate chip cookies, and today I want to share with you how to make my late night chocolate chip cookie recipe. This is a recipe that you keep in the freezer. Whether you've had a bad day or you're just sitting on the sofa and it's 9 p.m, you grab the cookie dough out, you place it on a hot tray in a preheated oven, and you have yourself one of the best cookies you've ever had. Soft, fudgy, crisp and delicious within 12 minutes. Yes, 12 minutes from the freezer, in the oven, in your hands, glass of milk, happy days. First thing we want to do is weigh off the flour. I'm going to weigh out about 400 grams of flour. Gosh, it's all over the thing. It's all over me, my scale. And we're using all-purpose flour. I think all-purpose flour is perfect for a cookie. Bread flour is going to make it too chewy. Cake flour is going to make it too soft. We want something with a just nice chew to it. Now we're accurate. We've got the flour measured off. When it comes to chocolate, we had two different types of chocolate. We had a bar of chocolate, 60% cocoa. Feel free to use milk chocolate. Feel free to use white chocolate. Feel free to use 70%, 80%, 90%, 100% cocoa. I really like Ghirardelli chocolate. You can get it at most grocery store and it's convenient. Now, the reason why we're using two different types of chocolate, when we use barred chocolate, it's going to have more cocoa fat in it. So it's going to have a richer taste to it and it melts easier than what chocolate chips do. So now we've got our chocolate chopped, just these rough pieces of chocolate. Can you see those? And then I've also got some chocolate chips. Don't worry about that white chalkiness on the outside. You're often going to see that with chocolate chips. Don't worry about that at all. You won't even notice that. Chocolate's ready. I'm using 2 eggs. This is going to be a leavening agent, so the fat in the yolk's going to make it nice and rich. If you just used egg whites, it would be chewy. If you just used egg yolks, it would be really greasy. And then we're going to use some vanilla extract. I use quite a lot of vanilla extract in mine. I really like it. But if you wanted to, you could actually switch this out and you could add some almond extract to it, maybe 1 tablespoon. Now we've got the ingredients ready. We've got the egg ready, the chocolate's ready, the flour's ready. I think what we should do is start to make this. When it comes to making cookies, I like to use unsalted butter. Why do I use unsalted butter? That way I can control the amount of salt in the recipe. Different manufacturers have different amounts of salt, and I'm using a European butter. European butter has a little bit more fat than what an American style butter does. White sugar makes a cookie crispy, so if you want crisp edges, use white sugar. Brown sugar, we're using a light brown sugar. Now, light brown sugar is white sugar with 10% molasses. That gives it that caramel taste. We add the brown sugar. Now, when it comes to leavening agents, that's what gives the cookie that puff, that lightness, that aeration, that carbon dioxide. We're actually going to be using baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda. The molasses in the light brown sugar is going to activate the actual baking powder. I've added the baking powder to the actual butter mixture. A lot of people say add it at the flour stage. I find adding it here, we know that it's fully incorporated. I'm going to turn this on and we're going to let this cream for a few minutes, just letting it cream inside with our paddle mixer. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes and you can scrape it down here and there, but we'll just place this on. After a couple of minutes, we're just going to turn it off and we're going to scrape the bowl down just to make sure it's all scraped down the sides and the bottom. And you can see that it's nicely creamed as you look at it. I'm going to place on the paddle attachment. Paddle's the perfect attachment I've found for making cookies. And now we're going to incorporate those eggs, just adding them in as the mixer's on. And we just let that incorporate some air into the batter. And I'm just going to scrape it down. You know, although from the outside it looks like it's all incorporated, but as we look inside, you can actually see that it's not. It's still sticking some of it to the side. So that's why we scrape it down. Let's place the mixer back on, paddle back on. And now we're just going to incorporate. It's good practice just to do that a couple of times, just to make sure it's incorporated nicely. You know, some people say incorporate this a small amount at a time. I've never had success with that. I'm also going to be adding the chocolate chips and the chocolate bar at the same time. And we're just going to put this on a slow mix now. And what's going to happen is everything's going to come together just wonderful. Just turning this on slowly. Don't want to turn it on too fast, otherwise it's going to go all over the place. You can hear that sound. That's the sound of that chocolate. And everything's just starting to incorporate now. As soon as the ingredients are incorporated, we're happy days. Look at that, Jon. You forgot to add the salt. You're supposed to be teaching people how to cook. At this stage now, save this. This is great for afterwards when the camera goes off. It's like... With this cookie dough, what we want to do is just take this and we just scoop it out. It's up to you what size portion you want. I like to do these relatively small because when it's late night, I want just to have a 1 cookie or 2 cookie. So we scoop it out, as you can see. I would place this onto a baking sheet, wrap them a few times with a cover, and then freeze them. This is the dough we actually place in the freezer. And these are just perfect. It's a dough that freezes so well. You may be asking, do you actually have to freeze this? Can I just bake them ahead of time? The answer is yes, but I pop them in the fridge for an hour. Otherwise, the butter needs time to set up. If you set up the fat, it won't spread as much because we want a cookie that's soft in the center and not too crispy. This makes about 24 medium-sized cookies. If you've had a bad day, just put all the batter on one tray and make a big cookie and you're like, hey, get in my belly, I've had a bad day. All right, Dario, I think we've got the point about scooping this. You're still blooming filming. I think everybody gets it. I would make them and then wrap them. Make sure you wrap them a couple of times so they don't get freezer burn. Pop them in the freezer. When we come back, you'll see them all on the tray frozen. So we keep them in the freezer. They're solid, they're frozen, and it's perfect. Preheat the oven, put a tray in the oven. So my rim baking sheet, I'm gonna grab it. It's nice and hot. We've preheated the oven to 350 Fahrenheit. What we're looking for is when the cookies go in, the hot tray is going to help them set so they don't spread apart, and it gets the bottom nice and brown. The oven is already warm. Parchment paper, or you could use silicone, you know, one of those silicone mats. Now we're going to add the cookies, 3 of them. Now, obviously, at home, you could use a smaller tray and bake less, depending on how many you want. Spacing them at least 1.5 inches apart because they're going to spread. You want that hot tray. That's the game changer. A lot of people put it on a cold tray, but that hot bottom on the tray is going to give the underneath of the cookie the nice caramelization, that brownish we love. Into the oven, 12 minutes. When we come back, these cookies are going to be ready. After about 12 to 15 minutes, they come out. Just take a look at these cookies. You can see how they've got that dome on it. The baking soda has done its job. They smell fabulous. We have to let them sit for at least 10 minutes. It's the hardest thing ever. I hope you enjoyed this cookie recipe. They keep on telling me I've got to encourage you to subscribe. So if you like this recipe, please subscribe and share it with others. Until next time, always remember, stay positive, be kind, and enjoy your life. See you soon, everyone. Cheerio for now.